Stepping into the vast hallway, Cathy stopped on the threshold to admire the amazing interior of the mansion house. Suits of armor lined the hallway that led to a vast staircase that led up to the upper levels of the house. Display cabinets adored the walls between the suits of armor, displaying all manner of rarities and antiques. Evie scanned the wide hallway as they edged deeper into the house, and more than once Cathy felt her companion tense as they moved past the armor. Looking to the staircase, Cathy saw that it went up half the level before reaching a landing and dividing into two sweeping staircases that brought you back on yourself. On the landing, framed between two enormous windows, Cathy saw a large mirror attached to the wall. It resembled the one they had at home, the one she knew had pulled her brother Tim to Melikavitas. Surrounded by an oversized frame, the mirror was equally, if not more so, ugly than the one that now lived in the secret room in the cellar. Unlike theirs, however, this one had no bird at the top looking down at the glass. This mirror had two skulls, one either side, looking in towards the glass. "Hello?" Cathy quizzed as she moved along the hallway, conscious she was intruding on the strange woman's privacy. "Is there anybody there?" The house was eerily quiet, Cathy's voice echoing up toward the high ceiling. She found no answer from any of the rooms leading off the hallway and returned her attention to the spooky mirror. Something tickled at her curiosity, and Cathy felt an urge to inspect the mirror. Checking she was still alone and knowing she should take her leave, Cathy tiptoed toward the staircase and made her way to the mirror. Deep down, she knew it was nothing more than a curious antique. She knew the only passage to Melikavitas was locked away in the cellar, but she wanted to look. Climbing the wide staircase, she noted someone had carved the banister on either side into the shapes of hissing snakes, their mouths wide and dead eyes staring toward the open door she had come through. Admiring the scales along the length of the banister as she moved up, it relieved Cathy to see her own reflection looking back at her from the mirror. Stepping onto the landing, Evie at her side, she moved to stand in front of the tall mirror and admired the ornate skulls on either side. "And I thought our mirror was ugly." Cathy scoffed as she looked at the jet-black gems placed in the eye sockets of the skulls. "This makes ours look lovely." The mirror stood twice as tall as Cathy, and as she admired her reflection, she saw how battered and bruised she looked. Her hair was matted with dried blood and seaweed, and her once white t-shirt was stained and torn in a few places. Admiring the jagged cut above her eye, she leaned closer to the glass to see how deep the cut had been. Although it had stopped bleeding, it was still exposed, and she expected it would leave a scar. Being careful not to start it bleeding again, she groaned at the idea of having her birthday party with an enormous plaster stuck to her forehead. Cathy was turning 12 in 5 days, and she was more than a little excited. They had timed their holiday to perfection, as they would arrive home the day before her birthday, where her parents had planned a party for her and all her friends. Now, though, she knew she would forever remember this birthday for the lump and the cut on her forehead. A sudden movement in the reflection snatched her attention back to the moment. In the reflection, Cathy was certain she had seen someone on the steps and turned around, expecting to find the regal woman or her elderly helper, but found the staircase empty. As she turned, Evie tensed and once again pressed herself to Cathy's legs protectively. "Did you see something too?" Cathy hushed to Evie and placed her hand on the nape of the dog's neck. Certain she had seen movement reflected in the mirror, Cathy inched back to the top step and looked down at the eerie hallway below. Nothing moved. Not even the gentle breeze moved the draped fabric hanging from the vaulted ceiling. Although she was alone, Cathy could not shake the feeling she was being watched. Sensing it was time to go, Cathy looked back at the mirror, and as she did, once again she saw a flicker of movement behind her. Snapping her head around, a sight that stole her breath and sent a wave of terror shivering down her spine greeted her. Beyond the realm of possibility, the two wooden snake heads were no longer attached to the banister and were now hovering in the air above the bottom step, staring up at her. As their wooden tongues flicked in and out of their now closed mouths, the snakes looked to one another before dropping to the ground and slithering up the staircase toward Cathy.